Hey everyone, happy Friday. Welcome to Prepare to Go There. My name is Peter Burchfield. I'm the host of this self-leadership podcast, helping you lead yourself and stay focused on your future. And we're going to jump right into a awesome conversation that I had recently with Trey Dowdy. He's the lead pastor at a great Christian church in the Galveston area. It's called Church of the Living God, and you'll get all that context in a little bit. But first off, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you for being a part of this coaching journey. I had no idea what I was getting into about a year or more ago, but I just wanted to show up, and I wanted to give encouragement and some practical coaching for people who were on a leadership journey. And now it's been over a year or more. We're in season 2 and coming up here at the kind of the grand finale of season 2 with 100. And this will be 18 hours of free self-leadership coaching, free coaching to keep you going, keep you growing. Today's conversation is really important because it's going to give you a roadmap for your leadership journey. So if you're watching live, thank you. Go ahead and tell me where you're watching from, and let's start a conversation off the get-go. And if you're kind of joining in, you're kind of new to this channel, and you already know about Trey Dowdy and what he's doing, and you're kind of listening in on that conversation, thank you. Welcome to this leadership community. But I'll give a lot of kind of comments at the end, so make sure you stay till the end. I'm going to give you some really important information that's going to get us going into the summer strong. And if for whatever reason you cannot make it to the end of this conversation, the first thing I want to do is let you know there is a quiz that we are running right now. My wife and I made this quiz to help you grow your leadership. And it's a free quiz. It's called What's Your Pioneering Archetype? And it's to encourage you that you really can pioneer the year. You don't have to go through another repeat year cycle. You don't have to stay stuck, and you don't have to wait on other people and other external circumstances to get you out of that rut. It's good to reach out. It's good to ask for help, but even that is internal direction. That's an internal motion that a lot of people don't even make. It's the first step was actually you making the choice that you're not going to stay stuck and making the effort to reach out for help. That's not an external thing. That's an internal thing first. And so take the quiz. You can go to the link at the bottom of this video, or if for whatever reason that's not working, check out pioneertheyear.com. I'll talk a little bit more about it at the end, but I want to set up this conversation. I am so grateful for Trey Dowdy. He is the lead pastor at a great church community in the Galveston area. It's called Church of the Living God, colg.org. And go ahead and check out the amazing work that they are doing. I've known him for years and have always been inspired by his example. And he's just doing life in a very needed and unique way. He keeps it simple. He is, family man. He is a Jesus follower. He's got a lot of very powerful things to share with us. I had a conversation with him recently. We recorded that conversation for you today. I'm going to be staying live in the chat, so go ahead and say hi or ask questions, and that'll be good. But because we're probably all on our lunch break, let's make this time count, and we'll go straight into this conversation. Thanks again. Let's go through the 3 phases that every leader must go through on their journey. Thanks again. Here we go. Hey, Pastor Trey, how are you?
I'm good. Good to see you.
Man, thanks so much for spending a little time with us. We're jumping on to talk about the journey that leaders have to go on, and it's not it's not overnight. It's not a one-time thing. It really is a lifestyle and a commitment. And I just really appreciate the way you've been modeling that by example. Why don't you just introduce yourself? And I know you're a family man, you're a community leader, obviously a Jesus follower, and just kind of share what you're excited about right now and what you've been working on with your team.
Yeah, I'm a pastor at a church in Galveston. My grandfather founded the church, and I came in about 2010. And so it was a lot of challenges, a lot of leadership challenges that came through all of that. I have a beautiful wife, been married 13, let's go 13, maybe 14 years, something like that. And then 4 children, which is their joy of my life. So, and currently, right now, just we're still in the midst of being a growing church. We found ourselves, like many churches during COVID, the challenge is there, but we grew during COVID, which was pretty amazing. And we've still kind of been on this growth journey and excited about what God's doing in our community. So, yeah, that's us.
Amazing. Leadership matters in pretty much every space, whether it's business or the home or in a church community. Leadership is not something that we kind of pass or shift to other people. It's something we all have to take ownership over. And so what I was hoping we could do is just kind of dive into this big idea of pioneering leadership. And I've been on a series through this YouTube channel talking about the need for pioneering leaders. And I'm so grateful for, every emphasis of leadership, the visionary leadership, organizational leadership, servant leadership. Man, that was revolutionary for me and my journey. And then, self-leadership, really just getting practical at the personal level. But now I kind of see this need to talk about pioneering leadership. And it's basically the ability to navigate and create the future of what we do. And, church communities need this, businesses need this, families need this. We're all kind of in limbo, kind of in this disruptive time, not really sure of what's next. And pioneering leaders are the ones that are still willing to step up to the challenge, to step into the vacuums, and to lead well with intentionality and integrity. And so what I was hoping we could do is just go through the 3 phases that I've identified in a leadership journey, which is, leading yourself, that's self-leadership, leading others, that's servant leadership, and then leading through others, and that's generational leadership. And not only have you been through all seasons, all 3 phases, but you're kind of in and out of these 3 conversations all the time. I mean, you have to lead yourself every day. You're leading a team, and then you're just because of your story and your context, you've been going through this generational leadership thing as it is already. And so if you're down, I'd love to just kind of kick it off. And why do you think leadership is so important for us, and maybe even the preparation side of it?
I think leadership is valuable. I think everyone Earth is called to be a leader. So not everybody believes that, but I think a foundation of everybody's called to be a leader in some aspect of your life and community. And when you kind of get that understanding, then you'll start to say, okay, if I'm called to be a leader, what do I need to do to be a great leader? Most people have kind of had this idea that great leaders are born, like that you're just going to have these innate abilities, and you may have some talents. But I personally believe great leadership is cultivated. You're putting in the work and the effort towards the gifts and talents God's given you, and in the secret place, in the place you talk about the self leadership, in the place where no one's looking. Doing the right thing with the pressure not as great. When you're able to do that when no one's looking, that character development helps you when the pressure builds. Other people are looking. Am I going to please them? Am I not? All those questions that come up. when you're making decisions as a leader, start in that self-leadership place, in that character development place. So um, it's crucial. I saw it. The Lord used the military in my life, probably for the first decade after high school, and much of what I learned about leadership comes from that. A lot of that experience, and one of the biggest things that they say is, you gotta. They call it servant leadership, but it's this idea that you can't lead until you follow.
Mm,
And being a good follower is
so
helping
good.
you because you're starting to understand what are the people that I'm leading going through. I've always reminded of my uncle. He was in the military as well, and this story got passed down to me from my grandfather. He got him some warm socks, electric socks that he could use while he was in Korea, but he decided not to use them because his soldiers didn't have them, and so he would
Wow.
not know when his soldiers' feet are cold if he was using them. And so, the basics of learning how to follow well
Hmm.
help you when the Lord promotes you in your season, so you understand who you're leading, what they're going through, and you're able to make better decisions. Here's another example. So when I was in the military, I was in the finance corps, so we had a good mix of males and females. And with the female soldiers, they were getting pregnant, and so many of them, while they were on pregnancy, I was still kind of military and very hard on them, not thinking too much about it. I'd never had that experience of pregnancy. And so when I say hard on them, I was making sure that they worked the 8 hours a day that they were required, things like that in the finance corps, until my wife got pregnant. And it wasn't until after I was in the military, but my
Mm,
wife got pregnant, and I realized the strain of that. Um, and so just being able to understand the people you're leading,
yeah.
sometimes that understanding comes in the secret, in the place when no one else is watching. So
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Man, that's so good. And I think, the kind of leaders that have impacted us, like this saying, we don't remember what they say, but we remember how they made us feel.
Yeah.
And they do model empathy and empowerment in a way that may seem kind of paradoxical at first, but it's because they have that empathy and they know, what we've been experiencing, that they do have the skill sets and the mindsets to empower us to go on this journey yourself, like you're talking about, being a follower first, being empathetic of those that are around you, and then having that commitment to empower those around you. That's gonna make the future brighter and braver for all of us. I'd love to just kind of ask you to give some encouragement to this first group that are just they're developing leaders. They don't know what they don't know yet, and all they're hearing is you got to prepare. And it's like prepare to go there, and it's like prepare to go where. We don't even know what the next week looks like, let alone what the next 5 years or whatever it looks like. How do you just kind of keep yourself motivated when you don't have teachers that are looking over your shoulder? How do you really develop that internal motivation to keep putting in the work?
Yeah, I've found that spending time with God in an intimate way on a daily basis, what happens in that place is He's going to ask you to do things that make the day fun, and they may seem insignificant, but they'll have
Mm,
kind of just big effects in the future. But I think the biggest effect that people mistake is the character development. That
mm,
we're all created to be in the image of Christ, and we're growing into that. And that time alone with Him, it develops that in such a way that, because we want the big moments, we want the spotlight, but we don't understand that pressure that comes with the spotlight can
mm.
crumble
Yes.
if you haven't been developed in the secret moments. I think of like Joseph's life. Joseph went through a lot of challenges, but in each situation where it seemed like he wasn't getting promoted but demoted, he still lived a life of excellence. In each one of those moments, whether it was Potiphar's house, the prison, each one of those moments when he continued to rise to second in command, he never quit on the promises of God. He always was like, okay, God, you still have me. I trust you. And when you're doing that daily, it's building the character in you necessary. Mm-hmm. But I also want to say this, because sometimes I'll see people serve for the promotion. Like, I'm doing this for my next level. And the problem with that mentality is you're really just using each moment for the next level. And so you live this lifestyle of, I just got to get the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And you're missing the opportunities that moment to grow. And one of the things I love about where I'm at today is I enjoy what God's done in me more than what he's done around me. Because it's been a lot of fun. So that's what I would encourage you with. Don't just serve to get a promotion. Don't just serve because I'm waiting for my next big break. Serve to become like Jesus. And when you do that, you'll find that he takes you places you never thought you'd be. So,
man, it's so good. I want to move into this first phase, which is self-leadership. It's leading yourself when no one's looking and being willing to lead yourself where no one's going. Leading by example, learning that best practice of examining yourself first, not shaming or blaming others, but taking responsibility where you are in the season you're in. Are there any practical areas or skills that you can share for your own self-leadership, things that either you have done or things that you're doing now that help you just stay grounded with this idea of self-leadership?
Things that have helped me just stay grounded, and I hate to keep going back to that, but it's this time with God. I say I hate to. I mean, it's been key for me because what it's done is he's given me ideas that I couldn't have created on my own. I'll give
so
you
good.
So we have. I know it sounds a little weird, but we have this. I was in prayer. Jesus said, "Take my name, put a circle around it, put it on everything." And I was like, "Okay, I'll do that." I didn't know it was going to blow up and be something. Like, I didn't know it was going to be a brand, if you want to use kind of worldly language around it. I just didn't know that was going to happen, and it did. And now it's more than, it's not just our church thing. It's a Galveston thing, and I've even seen it off the island. So it became this thing that happened out of prayer. And I say that because what I think some leaders lack is we try to mimic other we think are successes instead of asking the Lord, what do you have for me? What's my portion? And why that's important is because, like, when the Lord gave me the Jesus thing and promote my name, just do that. What was actually popular in the church for growth for us during that season, I think it was like 2016, right around there, was I love my church. So everybody was running around, I love my church, I love my church, I love my church. And we came out with, it's not about our church, it's about Jesus. And it just resonated with a Christian community that I didn't know it was going to do that. And so innovation is like key to leading.
Yes.
And so innovation takes this, like, let me break everything down to the bare bones. What is necessary? God, where are you leading me? I think it's also like the Lord told me to get on Facebook when it wasn't, not personally, but for the church. And Galveston's a little behind, so we were a little ahead of the curve. But when he said get on it, they're doing their live broadcast. It was like, and the first thing you could do was you could take a phone and just like shoot it, and that was live, and that was good. And that was all you could do. And then I saw somebody do a multi-camera setup, and I said, "Oh, I want to do that. How do we do that?" And we had looked at multi-camera before, but it was like $20,000 to get started. In our church at that time, that would have crushed our budget. But there was a new product called Sling Studio out, and it allowed us to get on for less than $1,000 in some people's phones. And so then we had a multi-camera setup, and so we're rolling along, and we're trying to do each little step the best we can. And
Yes.
and I'm empowering the volunteers. Hey, I want you to watch this. I want you to watch this. I want you to get this shot, this shot. Now, all these little small things, little by little. If you look back at some of our broadcasts, I think we actually started doing the multi-camera in 2017 into 17. You see some of those broadcasts, you're like, oh, okay, that needs some work, but it just kept improving. And then COVID hit, and when COVID hit, and the president of the United States said nobody can have church, and pretty much everybody agreed to that, at least for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
We simply had to push play because we already had
Wow.
a broadcast that was decent. And it just put us in really good position. Now, I did not know that. Like, I wish I could have planned all that out and looked like a genius. I didn't know that in 2016 when the Lord said, hey, I need you to get on Facebook and do this really, really well. And had I just said, oh, there's only like 16 people that like that post, or 13 people, nobody's watching this, we wouldn't have been in position in 2020. And what I found out through some of our networks, church networks, most churches did not grow in COVID, yet we found, I think we grew by about 30 to 50%, something like that.
Wow.
So just amazing what God's doing.
Yeah. Praise God, man. And that's so cool that if you had waited until, COVID was the reason, you wouldn't have had enough time to go through the learning curve and, to make the necessary changes.
Yes.
But because you were willing to do it first, before you really had a reason, you were just going with that prompting that you had, going with that instruction. And that was actually better timed than you could have foreseen.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it makes me think of Noah. Like, do you build the boat when it's raining, or do you build it when God tells you to? And
Come on.
20 years, like, I mean, think about it, 120 years. If we're comparing it to Instagram, he's getting like 2 likes, maybe one, right? And it's his family, right? But then there's a moment where it makes sense. And so that came from that secret place. So important. He'll give you innovative ideas, which I think are necessary for good leaders. So whether in
good
or industry. So.
Yeah, I see a lot of people, and they're insisting on, you got to have that morning hour, your hour of power, all that stuff, and they're kind of doing the mechanics, but they're missing the real miracle that you get to hang out with the creator of everything, and that he cares about you more than you could imagine, and that he is actually, working on you, working in you, working through you. So what do you? I'm very interested. I do get a little geeky, so just kind of steer me if you want to go into something else. But I am interested in that morning time. Is it structured? Is it fluid? Is it always the same time and place? Is it just kind of where you find yourself? Is there something of like a sequence that you have found just kind of works over experience? I mean, kind of take us through that time, and even give any helpful clarifications where people can just miss the point of having some kind of morning routine like that.
Yeah. So what's been powerful for me is just spending time with him. I give a kind of a basic, and then I'm going to take it a little bit on some sidetracks. So basically, getting up, reading the Word, spending some time in worship, singing to Him, and in this place, not out of routine, although it is a routine, out of this place of relationship, just listening to what He's telling me that day. And I may not get anything, I may get goosebumps, I may not. Many times it's not. But I know that from that place, God's done amazing things in my life. So that's kind of typical. Then there'll be times where I'll spend afternoon. I'm a pastor, so I get, part of my life is I get to do this for a living. It's just spend time with them. So I'll spend afternoons. I'll spend mornings at the church, just spending time with Him. So in this place, this is not necessarily my study time. It's just more devotional time. So in this place, I'll do a thing that's been really powerful for me called vision casting. And it's where I just dream with God. And what I'll do specifically is I'll pray in the Spirit. and then I'll ask for interpretation, and I'll pray about topics that I think the Lord is leading me in, whether it's the downtown campus, whether it's what program do you want to do at the church, whether how do you want to reach some people at this next community event, what does next year look like for us, God? And so I'll begin to pray in the Spirit, and then I ask for interpretation or understanding of that. And He'll just drop things in my spirit, and I'm like, what? Like, that's so cool. And then other times I may not get anything, but there's this Mr. Magoo sequence that he's probably a little too old cartoon.
No, I know Magoo. Yeah.
Yeah. There's this silly childlike obedience out of me to where He puts me at the right place at the right time. I'll give you an example. So the Lord put it upon my heart to buy people's groceries. And there was a season in my life where I did it almost. We go to HEB almost every week, if not every other week. I was asking in self-checkout, do you want to pay for their groceries or that groceries? Do you want me to go down this line, that line? Specifically with the intent, how can I buy somebody's groceries? So I'm doing this. I don't tell them that I'm a pastor. I don't tell them about my church. It's unconditional. So I'm not trying to get something out of it. I just want to love the Lord and bless people. So as I'm doing this, there's this one lady I pay for. I don't think anything of it. And I leave. I happen to have my Jesus shirt on, and she asked, who do I think? I just thank Jesus. Well, about 6 months later, we're trying to get into a middle school, and we're struggling to get in. And so our youth pastor goes to talk to the principal. When she goes to talk to the principal, she's like, where did you get that Jesus shirt? And she said, oh, yeah, our church hands them out. And she's like, there was some guy that paid for my groceries with that shirt on. And if you know him, if you have a chance to tell him that really impacted me. And it also opened the door. She said, we got to let you in. So it opened that door for us to get in through this small act of obedience that I wasn't trying to get credit for, because I believe if I do things in secret, I do things without the ulterior motives, the Lord will work on my behalf when needed.
Yes.
And so that comes out of that place of vision casting. And so your heart's just in tune with the Spirit all throughout the day so that you can be obedient. And then I also want to say this, because I think I used to beat myself up if I didn't make it up in the morning or I didn't have a good quiet time. And I started looking at my life in seasons. So I'll have seasons where I'm like on point and life is crazy and I'm like hearing the Lord. Then there's other seasons where it's a dreaming season and He's speaking to me by crazy dreams like almost every night. I'm wanting to get to bed early just because it's amazing. Then there's seasons where it feels like it's a little dry, but He's still there with His grace saying, I got you. We're still on track. So I never condemn myself out of those quiet time seasons when I feel like it's a little dry, knowing that there's coming a season where I'm going to press back in because He's just my love. He's everything to me. And then the last thing I would talk about quiet time is add fasting. Fasting, like it takes it to another level. So if you can add, and I don't mean like cutting out Facebook. I think I tell my church all the time, if you're feeling that, you're supposed to do that anyway. Don't call that fasting. I'm talking about like cutting out food, and it amps it up. And so when I tell my church this all the time, when your body gets to that hunger pain level, use it just like a woman giving birth uses the transition, the pain time, those transition phases to push out the child. Use those hunger pains to press into His presence. And when you do that, you'll find He'll speak to you either in that moment or it'll be a rewarding later. And man, He's just been so good, so good. So yeah, that's kind of my quiet times, and they've been awesome. They've been awesome.
Yeah. I think it's so good to, yes, be grateful for the things and the areas that have been fruitful, but to not mistake that for the things that are fruit bearing. And that time with the Lord is the fruit bearing part of our life. Yeah. And, all that other stuff comes and goes, but for you to really dial in, hey, my self-leadership comes down to this moment and this best practice. Can you give us some healthy guardrails? You're talking about vision casting. This is something that's with the Creator. The Lord is speaking to you. in that moment, and it's real and it's genuine and authentic. And then other people, they say, well, I'm gonna manifest my ideal future, and I'm gonna like speak out to the universe, and
Yeah.
I don't want that to be I don't want to tank this awesome conversation, but I do think it might be a helpful clarification too. Can you kind of give any guardrails on that?
Yeah, so this may be a little awkward. Manifesting, I think, can work. I don't know if it's because I think the Lord's given us power with our words, and I think even someone not connecting with God can use their words to bring things to pass. The only issue, though, is a lot of people use it for success and worldly success. So when they talk about manifesting, they're talking about worldly success. And the problem with that is, Paul writes, not Paul, Solomon writes in Ecclesiastes. I think he's the writer of it. He writes that you can have everything and it's vain. So there's some disappointments because I think some people think they can just roll manifesting and it'll work. And there's a lot of I don't know about that because there's a lot of people that don't work. What I found is that with vision casting, so I'm spending time with God and he's telling me what to do. He's not telling me everything. And at the end of the day, I enjoy my life with him. So if I'm successful to the world's eyes or not, and to some, I'm just a pastor in a small town with a medium-sized church. It's not something to write home about. But I enjoy going home with him. My family's amazing. And when things are tough, like he's still with me.
Yeah.
A whole lot different than I'm going to do this on my own and I'm going to speak out the success I want in life. If my church was full of a ton of people, but I didn't become love, I've missed the point. And becoming love is everything. That only happens when you're with him. So, yeah, so because I've heard the manifesting part, and I think it's so because of our social media, it's so easy to see who's doing really well and want their life instead of the one that God promised you. And I think if you had it all, you would realize how lonely it is, how it's empty. So,
Man, so helpful. Thank you so much.
I hope I didn't grade anymore.
No, not at all. It's so good, and I love that analysis and just that helpful explanation that, hey, this is a principle. It's we can see it being modeled in Scripture, but you need to go back to the root of it, go back to the motive, and when you're doing something to replace the creator and you're trying to take that role as the creator of your own universe, it's just goofy. What advice would you give your younger self? You're just getting started in this thing 10, 15, 20, 30, whatever years ago. What advice would you tell young Trey?
That's interesting because you had sent me these questions, and that one I had to ponder a bit because part of me, because when I came into pastor, we did not do. I mean, there's church models that work to grow a church, and we didn't do any of them. And we have adapted some of those models because they're effective and they work. And part of me wishes I had known how church operates in America before I got here to pastor. But as I really kind of dove into the question, I realized I had to go through what I had to go through for the development. And so then when I started to think about that, because we weren't a startup church. I wish we had been, right? That would have made it easier. I was a church that came in, or I was a pastor that came into a church that was on the decline, and had to love members there and figure out how the Lord wanted to expand it. So with all of that in purview, I was thinking, what would I tell myself? And it's be patient. Be patient in the process. You're going to want to do some things that are not timing of the Lord, and just wait on him. And what I found is when I wait on him, when I don't get ahead, and I'm patient with it. I'm like, oh, Lord, I'm going to let you, if this is really you, I want it to come to me. Man, he's been so good. So good. Everything has not without challenges, but there's been an ease to it that I don't think would have been there had I not waited. So it's been good. And then one more thing, trust the team around you.
Yes.
So I came off our Easter. We had our biggest Easter service ever, probably one of the biggest services the church has ever had, even counting some of the special events my grandfather ran. And amazing. I came off that event, and my younger self thought if I just preached good, people would show up. And the self now is saying, God, you put a great team around me so that when people drive into the parking lot, walk through the doors, drop off their kids, they're going to feel the love of Jesus. And whether they get it in a sermon or they get it in the music or the donut that was handed to them, they felt the love of God, and that was what was important. So I just trust the team that God's going to give you, and walk with them. Be willing to walk with them as a family. You're going to hold them accountable, but you want to walk with them. The Lord gave them. You're supposed to steward over them for a reason. Don't just fire people and hire people. Really steward over the people that God's given you.
Man, so good. That's a perfect segue into this second phase on the leadership journey, which is servant leadership. So we're learning the importance of leading ourselves, but now we're putting the team in the mix. And there's some unhealthy examples of team leadership, which is maybe more overpowering and positional, where you just have a title and then that gives you the top seat on the totem pole, and it's unhealthy and it can kind of fester into some toxic practices. But then we've got this other example. Jesus did it a different way, the better way, right? I come to serve, and so servant leadership has really been transforming not just church communities, but businesses thrive with servant leadership, and families thrive with servant leadership. And so I guess the first question is, what are some things that y'all have been doing or are doing to cultivate a healthy team culture?
Yeah, I think empowering is probably one of the biggest, is allowing people to make decisions. It doesn't come without accountability, but empowerment, so huge. So when I first got to the church, zero empowerment. I was asked about, should we have spoons, these type of spoons or this type of spoons to serve the coffee? And those questions, while important, they are important. Maybe if I empowered leaders, they could make that decision. And so as a church, we just begin to empower people, our volunteer base. In fact, we took out the division. We run a very low staff intentionally, so that people don't, because everybody's like, oh, the ideal Christian life is to be on church staff. And it's like, oh, I'm pretty sure that's not what Jesus said. But we'll have this, if you have such a bare bones staff, it gives volunteers like this empowerment to, oh, wow, I'm an important value member here at this church. I need to help make decisions with this and that, and that'll come with good training. So you're helping people realize, hey, what's important? How do we, all the small things to whatever aspect of business you are. So great training, great accountability. So you're going to have these moments where you're talking to them and saying, hey, this was great. These are things we need to improve. But you're allowing people on the fly to make decisions and saying, I would rather you make a wrong decision in the moment than come to me and try to figure out what we need to do. When you do that, man, the team can really flourish and their gifts come alive that maybe you didn't have. So probably one of the aspects of this is when we first got to the church, we were singing by CDs, and it was people may watch this later. It was, I want to say painful. Probably that's not the best word. It was a struggle.
Yeah.
So I came in and I said I wanted to live music. We didn't really have the talent there, and the Lord spoke to me in one of my quiet times. Why don't you use your gift? And so I led music for about 7 years. And then that season ended, and the Lord said, okay, I'm going to send you people. And now he didn't say it like all this, but now looking back, so everything was Mr. Magoo, but I'm going to send you people to start doing the music for you. And when I handed that over and then required, hey, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? And the team just kind of came around them, and the music's been way better. I always tell Denzel, our worship leader, Denzel and Ben, both lead worship at our church, I say the music got so much better when I stepped down. And so if you're able to get hands off as a leader and find the people with great talent that are around you, great character, and he'll send it to you. And maybe they don't have the great talent, but you got to trust the Lord's going to develop them in it. It's amazing. And we've seen that. We've seen people with great talent. We've seen people without the gifts, that the Lord put gifts upon them. We always think that they have to have the gift to be great. Solomon wasn't wise when he started. He asked for that. And so, yeah, it's just amazing. It's amazing to empower your leaders.
Man, that's so good. I've kind of seen just in my leadership journey, sometimes leaders are not comfortable with empowering their leaders. Obviously, there's a trust thing there, but it's partially because the setup of the team or the setup of the organization is just really messy. And it's kind of like when you ask your grandma the recipe for something and she's just done it so long that she doesn't even remember it. It's just muscle memory, man. She's just grabbing and throwing stuff and stirring stuff, and it's all happening at once. And so to actually sit grandma down and reverse engineer that process is, easier said than done. And I think either there's an embarrassment factor of, maybe it could have been cleaner or it should have been better. And so then they don't want to open that door for, in the name of empowerment, let other people see that, or they just haven't thought about it enough intentionally. And so streamlining just what you do, just simplifying what you do and realizing that this doesn't have to work just because you're the secret sauce. It can also work because you've put in some intentionality and you've actually set someone else up for success as well.
I mean, systems are important, right? So systems are, the Lord spoke to me this statement, and don't take it the wrong way, but you can have a large church with great systems and still not have the Spirit of God there. There's some large churches don't. You can have the Spirit of God, but still have a small church because you don't have systems. And so systems are the way to where people get ministered. My grandfather prayed for many years, send me 500 people. Send me 500 people. And the Lord finally came to him and said, if I sent you 500 people, you wouldn't know what to do with them if I sent them to you.
Wow. And
so he would always tell me this story when we had a low Sunday in our first 5 years of ministry. He'd always be like, the Lord's working, and he'd tell me this story. And it finally hit me, stop asking the Lord for more people and ask the Lord for wisdom on how to minister to that many people. And so I began to ask that question. I was like, Lord, okay, show me how to pastor that many people. And I realized where we were at then to where we're at today, I didn't have the right wisdom. I didn't have the systems. I didn't have the people in place. And now we do. Yeah. And so that was just this empowerment that a parking lot attendant feels like they can take a new visitor to the back of the building and they're not going to get yelled at because they're not doing their parking lot duties. They feel that empowered. If you can be hands off as a leader, doesn't mean you're not looking at details, but you're not, when you find something that's out of line, you're looking at the system instead of the person and saying, is this a system issue? Is there something here that they haven't been trained well? Maybe they're just not in the spot. And so, it's just, probably enough.
Yeah, and we can be, more reactive and kind of critique what went wrong, and sometimes it's just kind of lashing out, or be more proactive and say, I'm going to put just as much energy to make it simple, to prepare them, to develop them, and to create something that they can step into. Because a lot of my roles, man, I was so grateful. I had some amazing mentors my youth pastor really took me under his wing at 12 and just mentored me all the way up to 17. And I didn't even realize, that he was kind of affording for my mistakes. He was cleaning up a lot of stuff, but he didn't squelch my passion, and so I'm super grateful for that. But how do you? Well, I have two questions. I'm feeling our time here, so I'm trying to pick and choose because I'm enjoying this so much. But my one question is, let's say you do have to hold someone accountable. Are you going to do it right then and there? Are you going to do it immediately after the service? Or are you going to wait midweek? Are you going to let it air out? And
Yeah,
and
all those work. Yeah. Hey, go ahead. Well,
no, I was just curious because we know that we've got to be training people and walking with them and journeying with them, but sometimes you just time just kind of rushes past you, and then you end up repeating the same thing, and I think that almost adds insult to injury, and it just kind of makes it a little more strained.
Yeah, well, if I repeat it, then that's on me. I say that's on me. As far as correcting, I will usually, it depends on the situation. I've found that taking a step back and gathering all the information is so important. Usually my quick judgments are wrong, is what I found. My quick judgments usually tend to be wrong. And it's best for me to take a step back and say, okay, let me step in their shoes. What was all the information present at the time? And then from that place, make an informed decision about what's the direction we want to go now. But sometimes there's something's going on. It's pretty grave. Let's go ahead and handle this in the moment. Sometimes I need to take a step back and wait. But most of the time I'm waiting to say, okay, let me take a step back and make a decision. Now, if I just allow it to fester, that's on me. I can't complain about that. So
it's so good. Now we're the example that we're using is on the volunteer side. I want to kind of shift to the staff level of your team. And man, just looking at your leadership team on the website, I was so encouraged and even impressed. I mean, you've got some real depth and experience. These leaders are leaders of leaders. They have experience leading churches themselves, or being in senior roles. How do you create a culture where multiple strong leaders want to work together? I think that's something we would all want to have.
Having strong leaders work together is a challenge, and we face that challenge at times. Especially when there's disagreements, and we have them. But what I love about our team is they're all servants, and they see servanthood as very, very important. The Lord gave me my team. I tried to pick a couple people, they didn't work out. Everybody else that He gave me, and I was like, I'm not sure, Lord, about them. They've been amazing. Yeah. And they'll have times where you're like, whoa, what are we doing here? But we talk about it and we work through it. They'll have times where I'm like, wow, you're really headstrong right now. How can what am I missing? Because I'm a pretty headstrong guy at times too. And so sometimes I got to take a step back and say, maybe they're seeing it right. And sometimes they take a step back. So we have this just beautiful submission one to another. And I inherited quite a bit of leadership, and then the Lord has given me some leadership. In fact, you had given me a prophecy during COVID, and we've had a couple of young leaders come up and been amazing. But again, the Lord gave me the team, and that's why I kind of said, I just like, I didn't pick them. I tried to pick some people, and it didn't work. So
that's super cool.
Yeah.
Can we take a moment and just finish up this trio, talk about generational leadership?
Yeah, I'm excited. Having a good time.
This is a big one because, you and I have been having experiences with this. My parents planted a church, and then your grandfather planted a church, and absolutely God's heart is generations.
Amen.
And so I guess the first question is, how have you been learning to steward something that you didn't start?
Yeah. So I actually consider it an honor. So honor being key. Um, I feel like I'm in a relay race. Grandfather, obviously starting the work here in Galveston that I pastor. And so that's always in mind for me. In fact, I had people come to me and say, you need to change the name of the church so that you're more trendy. I really went against it because I didn't see it as my church. I saw it
Mm,
as something I was being a part of.
mm-hmm.
Um, and why that helps me is because then I'm looking out and saying, okay, who's the next generation that I'm supposed to be mentoring, so that when it's their turn to lead this banner of Christianity, they'll be ready for it. And so I love generational. It's been challenging at times. Without a doubt, my grandfather was very headstrong. It's what made him very successful as a preacher out on the West End with the tent, and nobody wanted him out here because he was headstrong. That kept him in. But it also that makes it challenging now. While I love our personal relationship's awesome, it makes it challenging when I want to do something, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not sure that's going to work." And of course, he's right a lot of times. Um, so there's this place of honor, and I'm listening and taking advice from him. And sometimes he'll look at things we did. It's like we painted the whole sanctuary black, like not his style at all. And he struggled with it too because the tiles my dad gave him, who passed away. So my dad gave him these tiles that are sentimental to him. I want to
Mm-hmm.
take them all out and paint the sanctuary black, and and but yet now he has this flexibility in him that he says, okay, it was not something I would do, but I can see where the Lord's leading you.
Wow.
And since wisdom is justified by your children, and he's seeing the effects of these results,
Yeah.
he's saying, okay, it's a different way that I would pastor, but the message is still the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I just honor. We miss honor and submission, and submission is. I think John Bevere said this. It's not submission till you actually disagree. Like
Mm.
anybody can submit to something they agree to. But, we don't know if you're submitting or not because you agree. But when you disagree and submit, and there's been many times that I've disagreed with my grandfather about ministry, but I've learned that when I honored him and I submitted, the Lord's worked it out for my good. And if it was something the Lord wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
it would eventually come around. My grandfather would come around through conversations and things like that. So honor's so important. So important.
Yes. Man, so good. The patience, the humility, the honor, leading relationally and not just, positionally, and having just that understanding of stewardship that, it was given and it will be given again. And you just have to steward it really well. So I want to kind of zoom in on this moment where you painted the room black, and any change could feel like a critique,
Yeah.
and so how do you communicate changes? How do you lead change? You've got something big on your heart. You're seeing where this thing can go, but you're trying to just honor what's been done, but and there's just help us, Trey. How do we like lead change, but then also stay kind of, in alignment with generations?
Yeah. That one was because that had been on my heart. We actually had started with a small piece, which was the background black. We started doing camera work. We noticed that black backgrounds worked best in camera work. That's the only reason we started doing it. And we were debating between a black background or what was popular was wood plank, throwing a bunch of wood plank and some candles and stuff. Or Edison light bulbs and stuff like that. That was popular during our time of making change. And so we did the black background. We did it through chalk art. And so we did chalk art on it. And while my people that attended church in the 90s and early 2000s, that was not a style that they were used to.
Mm-hmm.
I sold them on the idea of, hey, there's a couple of reasons we're doing this. One is to get great shots on our live feed for those that are watching. And two, we think this will reach a younger generation. That doesn't necessarily reach a younger generation, I don't think, but we sold them on that idea and they bought it. That's probably too much information. So we're doing this, and then I feel like the Lord's pushing us a little bit more forward, and especially during the season of COVID. We're coming out of 2021. I feel like the Lord's saying, let's go forward a little bit more. And so we start incorporating lights, and I feel like we're going to do the whole sanctuary in black. And I'm looking at it, I'm thinking about it, thinking about a lot of the reasons, cost, all that, but also the biggest cost was, are people going to buy into this idea? Because we have a very eclectic church. We have a lot of old people. We have a lot of young people. We have people in between. We got it all, which is pretty amazing. So are they going to buy into this? We're going all black. So again, I went around kind of just selling the idea, but then the Lord spoke to me in a dream about it. When he spoke to me in a dream about it, I had to trust that he was talking to me. And so I went ahead and did it. I remember right after we painted it all black, I walked in that Sunday. I was like, this is crazy dark. Oh, no. Is this going to work? I don't know. And it didn't work for some people. Some people couldn't take the change. We told them that we got a downtown campus that's more traditional that they could go to if that fit. But we lost some people for sure with the change. But what was most important to me was my grandfather. And this is what he said. He said, it's not necessarily a church that I would go to, but I see how this is working. And it was one of those changes. We made a lot of changes throughout the years, but trying to get buy-in is important. But then you also have to get to this place. Okay, I'm hearing the Lord. I may not have the buy-in, but and so just trusting Him when you're hearing Him and making that change. So.
Man, it's so good. I'd love to kind of zoom out and just dream with you a little bit, because a lot of generational leadership is realizing that you're doing things for others. You're doing things with other leaders in mind, even, and you're doing things with kind of a larger map in your heart. And how do you kind of lead in the moment, and you're taking on the challenges of the week, but then also just keep space in your heart to dream about what's possible in your city or further from there?
Great question. So I read a book called Rocket Fuel. It's a secular book, but it's a book about defining roles. And I think churches have kind of gone to this. We went to this. My uncle, who's a entrepreneur, owns a plumbing company. He told me to read it, and so what we did is me and my wife took on those specific roles, where she became the executive pastor and handled the day-to-day specific things, and I began to just vision and dream and ask the Lord. When we stepped, it doesn't mean I don't do. There's some small day-to-day things that I still do because we're a small church and we keep a pretty tight ship. But what that allowed me to do is just get away and hear the Lord and say, okay, Lord, what are you speaking here? And I know not everybody's going to have that moment of division, may not have that luxury. We couldn't put my wife on staff till 2019, I think. So we didn't have that luxury. So before that, I was spending more time. I'd get up and just spend time with the Lord and then do my daily routine, and He'd give me vision stuff. So, but I tried to segment some time for vision. Like if you don't have the time for it, I spent quality, like this, I'm going to spend these 2 hours just talking to the Lord and asking Him, what's next? What can I dream about? Because everything we see in this world, somebody created.
Yes.
Somebody created a car. We think we just take this as life. Somebody created a door. Somebody created roads. Like all these things people thought up and created.
So good.
Our life exists because somebody created it. And so when you really tap into that, but more with the Lord, like, Lord, how are you bringing your kingdom here? What does it look like in my microcosm? You don't have to do something big, but if you just did, like, in my small world, what can I create? What can I do that's different than somebody else? What specifically? So that vision, going back to vision casting,
It's good. It's really helpful.
it's taking time out. But now because my wife does the executive pastor role, I can step back, create sermons, and talk with the Lord about what's next. Like, where do you want to take us? What program you want to do? And He's been faithful to speak to me.
You're really giving us a lot of hope and a lot of help. That it doesn't have to be one or the other, but it really can be both. Pastor Trey, how are you thinking about the future these days? Are you hopeful? Are you obviously not antsy, but I mean, how do you think about the future of Galveston? How do you think about the future of your church, the church community, and just kind of help us work on that mindset, because so many of us can waste time, overthinking it.
Yeah, we can. And sometimes I do waste time overthinking it. I've put it basically like this. The vision of our church is for you to be like Jesus. Heidi Baker put it like this. She said, love the person in front of you. Like, it's not hard. Take your moment and love the person in front of you. And I've found that through spending time with God, and I just go live my life, whether it's at Walmart, whether it's at the church, just everywhere that I go, that if I'm intentional about loving the people around me, the Lord makes everything else work for me. And so that's been a valuable resource. And that's the vision. It's not just my vision. That's the vision that the Lord's given our church, that we would be a community that's loving the person in front of us and being like Jesus. And so, we'll have people that pray for people at Walmart, or all sorts of things, just out and about in the community, loving a community. And what I've found is, because we really want a culture shift in Galveston, where, especially, even 4 or 5 years ago, it was very much a tourist party island. And we're saying, hey, no, we're going to make a culture shift where people are coming here to experience the presence of God, whether they know it or not. And they're going to experience it because we're out and about loving our community. That vision is alive now, and I feel like it's expanding even more. And it's not just our church specific. It's a Christian Jesus movement within all the churches. We get to hear about. I'm hearing about so many churches, boiled back down to the basics. So how can I be like Jesus? How can I go and reach my community for Jesus? So it's just been awesome.
Thank you so much for your time, your investment, and just the way you're modeling self-leadership, servant leadership, generational leadership, all at the same time. Obviously, you got an open invitation, jump on the podcast whenever you can. I would encourage anybody tuning in, kind of tracking with us, please go check out the work that Pastor Trey's doing. He and his team are doing an awesome job. And, go listen to the services, or go visit, go in person, man. I know they'll take care of you. Pastor Trey, where can people, find you, reach you, or get in touch with your team?
You can, if you're in Galveston, you can come to our church. We're on the West End. Our webpage is colg.org. We'd love to have you. We have services on Sunday, 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. at our main campus. And then if you're downtown, you want to come to our downtown campus, that's at 10 a.m. And then we have a Wednesday night service as well.
See, did I get that right? colg.org.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
So, which is awesome. And that's how you can hook up. If you're down on the island, please come visit. So we'd love to have you.
Amazing. Hey, y'all, we're going to stay focused on the future, one Friday at a time. Know that your you're not alone. Other people are cheering you on, and what you're doing matters. So keep it up. Remember, you're going places, but you got to prepare to go there. We'll see ya. Wow, come on. So good, guys. Hey, would you help me? And if you found value in this, go ahead and leave a comment. You can say thank you to Trey Dowdy for just being so generous with his time, being so transparent with his leadership journey. And man, I encourage you again, go check out what their team is doing, because they really are making a massive impact. And I'm just so grateful to know amazing people like that. Trey Dowdy loves God. He loves his family, loves his community, loves his city. And because of that, he is a pretty fearless leader. And so what I want to do right now is just kind of finish out with a few calls to action. And so just because of the way media and the internet work, I don't feel the same rush to kind of land the plane too soon. I know that people can kind of scroll back and forth. You can opt in, you can opt out. But if you are tracking with Prepare to Go There, and you have been a part of this leadership journey, you're going to want to hear what I'm thinking about, what I'm working on with you in mind. The first thing is I want to let you know that there is coaching available for you. You've been hearing about this leadership journey, and it's really inspired you. Maybe it's frustrated you in a good way, and you're like, I'm ready to keep making progress on my leadership journey. I want to give you a few ideas. Obviously, you can go back for these podcast episodes. You can get a lot of deep dive stuff. You know, the motivation for this was to keep you company on your leadership journey, realizing that it's not just a conference, it's not just an event, but it really is the lifestyle that you're going on day by day, week by week. And so I wanted just to bring valuable content. I wanted to give you encouragement. I wanted to give you some practical coaching, mainly in the self-leadership space, because that's where we're living. Leadership is not always on the stage. We get to enjoy kind of those high volume moments a few times, but really more of our leadership is showing up when no one's around, when we're just growing, and we're preparing for whatever happens next. And so you can go through the deep dive, and there's 118 hours of free self-leadership coaching right here on this YouTube channel. But there are some next steps you can take beyond that, beyond just having, rocket fuel for your focus. You can take the quiz. It's called What's Your Pioneering Archetype? And this is going to give you fresh language to better understand yourself, better understand the way you lead, better understand the way you approach things like the future and teamwork and life planning. And it's not just going to give you a summary of the way you lead, but it's also going to give you an action plan to go with it for free. My wife, Sarah Joy, and I made this project for you. And so if you're saying, hey, I'm ready to really get involved in coaching, but I need to budget this in, I'm not quite ready to, buy the course yet, but I still want coaching, this is going to be something really great for you. You can get this in two different ways. You can find the link at the bottom of this video, or you can go to the pioneertheyear.com website. And that's where my flagship digital course, Pioneer the Year, is, which I'll mention right after this. But go and take the free quiz. It's fast, and it will give you kind of a roadmap for this same leadership journey that we've been talking about. How would you lead yourself as a pathfinder, or how would you lead others as a trailblazer? How would you work collaboratively as a homesteader? How would you, just stay focused on your future as an explorer? These different archetypes are needed. They're unique. And so this quiz is going to help you put that to action right now. And, my passion is helping you pioneer this year. And the reason is we don't have a lot of time to waste time. Every day is a gift. Every year is an opportunity. And so we have to leverage these gifts. We have to leverage these days really well. And so many times we just feel stuck, and then we internally plateau, and then we hit this phenomenon that I describe as the repeat year cycle. And a repeat year cycle is where, things are good, but there's no middle ground between where you are and where you see yourself going in the future. And so the future is just always out there. And the goals and the dreams and the projects are things that you look at and talk about and complain about, or, throw up in wishes and prayers year after year after year. And you start to scratch your head and say, wait a second, I've been waiting long enough to get closer to these things, and yet I am no closer to these things. I'm no closer to my health goals. I'm no closer to having a team to run this dream. I'm no closer to, seeing progress in these different areas of my life. And that's pretty much the biggest smoking gun to let you know that you're in a repeat year cycle. You've just hit a rut, and we want to be future focused, and we want to lead ourselves consistently towards that future. So we're not adverse to waiting, but we're making the most of that waiting process. So we're actually getting into the future frontier, and not waking up later and saying, oh no, I was stuck the whole time. I was going through the motions, but I really didn't lead myself with this sense of movement. And so that's why I believe many of you are ready to make the investment. You say, I have waited long enough. I have gone, for the free stuff as long as I can handle it. Maybe you're like me, and you were the scavenger, the forager on the internet, trying to find as many of these best practices and these game changers that could help you. And you need to do what I did a few years ago, and you need to just take that step. You need to make that commitment, and you need to invest in your leadership. You really need to invest in the way you're going to lead yourself and others, because it matters. Your health matters, your family matters, your team matters. And when you invest in yourself, it's going to have ROI that ripples out far and wide. And I don't want you to be in a repeat year cycle. I want you to put in the work today, so that way you can enjoy your future frontier with others in mind. And so this is a call to action for those of you that are ready to take the course. It's called Pioneer the Year. It's going to go through 4 big modules, and you're going to overcome the 4 main challenges that keep us in random days and repeat years. You're going to overcome clutter and indecision and self-sabotage and apathy, and you're going to learn both insights and then strategies through that entire guided coaching journey. It's an amazing suite of tools that you're going to pick up and apply, and you can digest it very easily. You can put it to work. There's some companion coaching tools and even coaching opportunities with me that you can find through the course. But this is your year to pioneer, okay? This is your year to go further than you've ever gone before, to actually cross over the line of the mirage mentality and to say, no, I've seen this as a potential for a long time, but now I'm going to actually go make it happen. And it's not going to happen accidentally. You got to do it intentionally. And this course is going to help you turn the repeat years into new frontiers. So go ahead and jump in the course, enroll today. You can go to pioneertheyear.com and be a part of that game-changing, life-changing course. And I really believe it because I have experienced it. I don't have time now to rehash the transformation, but I am so grateful that I made that choice and it was an intentional moment. It wasn't just kind of this gradual thing where things kind of got better over time. It was a choice. I am not going to stay helpless. I'm not going to think fragile. I'm going to stay agile, and I'm going to be very willing to make multiple big changes consecutively, so that way I can actually get out of that rut, and I'm going to begin pioneering. I'm gonna lead like a pioneer. I'm gonna be a pioneering leader because I've never done this stuff before. And so maybe it's a new season of life, maybe it's a new ministry, or maybe it's a new business, or maybe it's a passion project that you've been considering for a long time. Maybe it's a cause that you say, why isn't someone doing something about this? And you need to be the leader that's going to step up and lead like a pioneer. And so you've got two choices. When you look out at what's important and what's possible, you can either fear it or you can pioneer it. You can fear the learning curve, or you can pioneer right through it. You can fear the unknown, or you can pioneer right through it. You can fear what didn't work in the past, or you can pioneer into a whole new season of fruitfulness and success. And it's not about just working harder and waiting longer. It's about learning a new mindset and then surrounding it with the right toolkit, so that way you can turn the repeat years into new frontiers. And I'm just so grateful that other leaders, business leaders, ministry leaders, friends, entrepreneurs, creatives, they're all putting in the work with us, and they're joining this leadership community. It's amazing. And there's some other coaching opportunities that come up after the course. So dive in today. Do not wait. I mean, we're going into June. You're already going into like month 6 out of this year. Don't wait another month, because otherwise you're actually in a repeat year. And so it doesn't matter whether it's January, whether it's August, whether it's heading into June. Make this week that turning point moment. Make it that crossroads decision where you say, I'm going to take the step. It's an investment in my future, and it's going to benefit not just me, but the people I care about and the people I carry on with. So check that out. You go to pioneertheyear.com, and I'll be available right now if you have any questions about the conversation with Trey Dowdy or the course, Pioneer the Year. And I realize that there's different fits for everybody. So I'm trying to just resource people at different levels. If you want to just go and be a part of this extended coaching journey, you can go back through, prepare to go there and kind of do your own gleaning that way. If you want to get something fast and free, dive in with the quiz, Pioneer Archetype. And then if you say, no, I really am ready to make the commitment and I'm ready for the coaching course, you can dive into that. I also do coaching. So that's another option that I'm not going to talk about here, but I just want to push you to do something. I want to push you to take action. I want to push you to be brave. I want to push you to have courage and do something that you haven't done yet. That's what pioneering is all about. All right, the last thing I'll share is about season 3. We are already coming up to the grand finale of season 2. And just so you know how I count things, I went 20 weeks of daily live streaming for season 1, and I was really learning how to show up myself. I was getting the messaging out there, and I was emphasizing the importance of preparation. And so preparation is a big part, not just for developing leaders, but even for existing and established leaders that are trying to rework parts of your organization, trying to rework parts of your team culture, trying to reimagine and launch out again. You're going to have to put in the preparation to do that. And so season 1 was how do you have a lifestyle of preparation versus, this opposite, which is just a lifestyle of procrastination. And instead of settling with a lifetime of procrastination, you really can adopt and adapt this lifestyle of preparation. And so that was season 1. And now here we are, season 2. We're almost at another 20 weeks, believe it or not. And so this was 118. I got 2 more weeks, 2 more amazing conversations with leaders that are in the field. They're making the future work happen. And I'm just really inspired by the way they're leading themselves, regardless of the fanfare or the pushback. They are still pioneering really well, steadily getting ready for new chapters and uncharted territory. And so here we are, kind of leaning into season 2. The big idea was doing the future work. How do we actually, work on the future today? And I spent a lot of my solo live streams on helping you have a future focused work session. So if you go back through the titles, you'll see a lot of content and coaching about how do you just get focused and not drift into futuristic thinking, but how do you stay focused on that future work? And so we kind of get into some more tactics and more mechanics about leading yourself in a future focused way, having dedicated, like time keyed start and stop work sessions where you actually go in to the workshop of your future frontier and you work intentionally, strategically. You get in, you get it done, and then you get on with the rest of your day. And it's been wildly important for me, and it's been a huge wildfire kind of conversation that's gone through this leadership community. So go back and check out that. When I did have friends join in and we had conversations with them, we have been talking about being future-focused leaders more on a macro level. And so just had a wide variety of brilliant and creative people that are leading well, thinking deeply, and staying focused on the work at hand. And so that's something that I want you to check out as well. So we've got 2 more weeks. Season 2 is going to come to a close. I'm going to take a break and go into kind of a summer vacay mode to celebrate my wife's birthday. She's got a July birthday, and so we'll take some time and celebrate her, and that'll help me kind of rework season 3. I've already got a plan for season 3, but I would love your input. I welcome your feedback. Let me know if live stream is of value to you. Let me know if there's a certain time of day or a better day of the week that you would be more available for this kind of coaching. And if you don't speak up, that's fine. I will just make a choice on my own. I will make a plan and run with it. But I do know that this is a growing leadership community, and your feedback really does inform the work that I'm doing here for you. So that's going to be really fun. And I just only see this thing taking off even more. Like I am so encouraged about the future friends, to see more pioneer people show up to this conversation, people that want to turn the repeat years into new frontiers, people that want to go the distance and make a difference. And so there's a lot of projects, a lot of irons in the fire, which is very encouraging. But I'm even going to be, taking time to dial in to that wisdom path about, what is the best use for this podcast. And so season 3 will be coming with a fury. So I'm very focused and motivated to help you on your leadership journey. Again, I'm grateful for Trey Dowdy. He is the real deal. He's the real deal, and he's added a lot of value to me over the years. So go ahead and share this conversation with others. And in the meantime, have an awesome weekend. Make sure you take some time to practice future present thinking. Look at the next 7 days or look at the next 30 days and say, okay, where are we going? And then work your way back. Have a intentional plan to lead yourself and stay focused on your future. That's what we're all about. Prepare to go there. I will see you next time.
you.